Hello, everyone. Welcome to A New Direction. My name's Jay Izzo, and actually, we're live in the studio, which I guess we are every week when we do this, but actually, we're together. I'm with author Tim Burrell. His book, The AI Negotiator, is the book. Dominate real estate deals with the power of artificial intelligence. Don't let that title fool you, because I firmly believe that this is more than just a real estate book and AI. As the negotiator, I am convinced after reading it twice that in fact it is a book that is really for all salespeople, because at the end of the day, all sales, B2B, B2C, doesn't matter, requires a human element. And we have AI tools available to us that perhaps many of you, if not most of you, are not using or not using appropriately. Tim's going to walk us through some of the things that are available to us that are out there. Some of them you already know, and some of them you may be already using, like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, et cetera, so forth. You may be using those tools. But let me just say something to the salespeople and the real estate people who watch the show. And I have, I guess thousands of you who do. Let me just say to you, when I was in real estate back in 1990, the late 90s is when I got into real estate. And I remember being in an office across from Tim's office, and we were at Prudential together. And there was a lady in our office, and I was learning how to build websites. And I was building a website for my wife's company. And I put it together, and I had people teach me, and I bought books, and I learned how to do it. And there was a lady in our office who said to me, "No one is ever going to buy real estate through the web." That's what she said to me. She said, "Nobody's ever going to buy real estate through the web." We sold a house directly to somebody in Iraq during the Iraq War. He was a military person, bought a house through our website, called us up, we negotiated the deal and had the house done for him. Right? It wasn't a year later, I see the lady who was in our office, Tim's in our office, who was sitting at a bookstore. And I said to her, "Hey, haven't seen you." She said, "No, I got out of the business." She said, I can't do this internet thing. It's too much. Well, here's the thing. AI, all right, this is what AI reminds me of, is that very story where we had people who said, well, AI is not going to affect my business. It's not going to. In fact, I'm going to tell you, while it may not replace you, which by the way, the internet didn't replace anybody, but what it did is it enhanced the way we did business that was better for the consumer. This is the same point of this book, folks, is that AI is not going to replace you as a salesperson, as a real estate person. And as Tim so eloquently points out in this book, it's here to enhance your business, and he's going to help us do that. So let me introduce you to him. Tim Burrell is a nationally recognized authority on real estate negotiation with over 45 years of experience as broker, investor, contractor, attorney, and author. It's a lot, isn't it? Pioneer in blending traditional negotiation strategies with cutting-edge AI tools. Tim is one of the most versatile minds in the business of buying and selling real estate. Tim teaches realtors to negotiate better in continuing education courses and makes presentations at national real estate conventions on negotiating. He's been a licensed real estate broker since 1979. He's led successful real estate teams in both California and North Carolina, so he's got both oceans. He's won several honors, and before going into real estate full-time, Tim practiced law in California. God bless him. Specializing in real estate litigation, zoning, and environmental issues. He's also licensed general contractor, builder, land developer. He fixes and flips properties throughout the Research Triangle Park area here in North Carolina, and teaches other investors how to spot value and close deals. He's written 2 previous books to this one, Create a Great Deal, The Art of Real Estate Negotiating, and also Create a Great Short Sale, your guide through the short sale maze. He lives in Wake Forest here in North Carolina with his childhood sweetheart, Judy, who I have known for years and love dearly, and enjoy spending time with their 2 children, 6 grandchildren, and he has a number of hobbies. One is including wind surfing, which I knew that. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, and welcome to the first time here on A New Direction. Tim Burrell, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
You know what? I did love this book, by the way.
Thank you.
Obviously, I read it a couple times. So, I mean, I guess I have something to say about this. In the first chapter of this book, which is entitled Bridging the Gap, What Every Real Estate Professional Needs to Know About Artificial Intelligence. And I'm going to rephrase it to whatever salesperson needs to know
Exactly
about artificial intelligence. You start off by saying, let's start with the simple truth. Real estate or sales in general is a relationship business. It always has been, it always will be. You close more deals when people trust you, like you, and believe that you understand what they need and what they want. And then you said, AI is not going to replace you, but it can make you a whole lot better. Talk to us about that visionary statement that I kind of said, that AI is not going to replace us. So talk about how it's going to make us better.
And really, it's going to enhance your ability to get information. And you could take and gather the same information by spending hours and hours reading different texts, reading different libraries, or you can take and put in a super prompt, and in a few seconds, you get all this information. So what it does is to greatly reduce your learning curve. You're going to take much less time to get all this information that you really need. Now, the thing that's always fascinated me is negotiating. It's the greatest way for people to resolve things, to work things out, and to come out in a happier situation than they were before they started. And so I try to apply all of this to negotiating and what tools you can use in AI for that. You're exactly right in that the primary focus of the book is for people in real estate. But realistically, the book is much broader than that because it deals with anybody who negotiates, which we all do all day long. Try that with your teenage daughter. I mean, it's just all the negotiations that you go through on a regular basis. This will allow you to do a much better job of it because you'll have preparation is the key for negotiation. Right. And a whole lot of people just jump into it and don't prepare at all. Well, this takes your preparation time and greatly decreases it, which greatly increases the chance you're going to do it.
Right.
If it's going to be really hard and really difficult and you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it.
Right.
If instead, my super prompt is just 7 steps, you put the thing in there, you get the information you need and go, oh, well, that's great. Here's who I'm negotiating with. Frankly, if you want to, you can even try your negotiations out with AI. Go ahead and tell them. I happen to like Claude. I think you do too.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, go ahead and put in Claude the factual situation of what you're dealing with. Put in the fact that you're going to make an offer. Tell Claude that as a persona, it is the other side of the negotiations. Put the offer in there and see what Claude says. You will avoid those little moments that you and I have always had saying, I wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah. I wish I had said that. I wish I had not put that in the email. I wish I hadn't texted that back.
Yeah.
Right? Had those moments.
Yeah. So that's just an illustration of the wide range of different tools that the AI is going to do. It's not going to replace you.
Right.
But it's going to be another tool. And I think your analogy to the internet is exactly right. We've all gone, I started in real estate way too long ago. And the key ingredient was the real estate book.
Right. Yeah.
And we went through the book, and then we went through fax machines. Then we went to the beginning of the internet. Then we went to, you don't have the listings on the internet. Then you have everything on the internet. All these transitions that everybody has gone through. And this is just another transition. Right. This is another, frankly, great opportunity to keep your mind alive and to learn something new and to come out to be an even better version of yourself. So, you're exactly right. It's not going to knock anybody out of the ballpark. It doesn't have the empathy and the ability to interact with other people, to understand their point of view, to understand what it is they really want as opposed to what they're saying what they want, and to come up with something where you satisfy what their needs are and you get something of equivalent value on your side.
When you describe AI to people, and especially because I know you talk to so many salespeople, specifically in the real estate arena, but you talk to salespeople. When you try to describe to them what AI is really, how do you describe it?
Rather vaguely. It's just a tremendous amount of information that you have access to. And I describe it as something that you can tailor to whatever you want. AI has this horrendous range of information, some of which is wrong. Yeah. And so you're going to have to try and deal with this huge volume of information on demand and try to be talented enough to direct it correctly to give you the information that you really need and to not give you garbage.
Right.
So yeah, basically it is it's like having all of the libraries and all of the research papers and all of the other data at your fingertips. And instead of taking days to read them, it takes seconds.
Right.
So yeah, it's delightful.
It has somebody, it's basically summarizing basically all that data and information for you, right? But the problem is, as you just mentioned, and you need to know this, it hallucinates from time to time.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I did a podcast with Lee Brown, and Lee,
Lovely. She's been on the show before.
She's absolutely spectacular, but she does not mince words.
No, she doesn't. No.
I just love that about her. And one of the things when I'm doing the podcast, she says, "I think AI is the instrument of the devil."
Yes, that's what she said. Yeah, that's what she says.
Yeah, and I enjoy that. The trick about it is everybody's wrong. Everybody you talk to is going to make mistakes. Everybody you deal with is going to give you misinformation. So you deal with this all the time anyway. So the fact that AI is going to give you misinformation is not new.
Right.
It's just a continuation of the human condition.
Right.
And so what you need to do is to double check. You could mention a technique that you use in terms of putting the same prompt in 3 different items. I use something slightly different. I will put something in, typically in Claude, and then get an answer out of that. I'll copy the answer and go over and put it into Perplexity. Now I'm trending more towards like Gemini, like you said. But Perplexity, the thing I like about Perplexity is it gives me the citations of where it got the data.
Yeah.
So if I have a question about, for example, in California, I'm still licensed as an attorney, and one of the things that's real easy to do in AI is to get some kind of opinion on some legal issue.
Yeah.
The trouble is you can see all kinds of attorneys that have cited cases that don't exist, things of this nature, the complete hallucinations. So what I will do is take that and put it in Perplexity, and then I'll read the actual case if I want to know about it. Then when I've read the data source immediately, and what it does is save me the time.
Right.
It could take me like 3 hours to find that case. Instead, it takes me a couple of seconds. Then I read the case. Then I really know what it says, as opposed to if you're the one whose name is on the item. You're the one who's saying it. You're the one who's responsible for it being correct. Don't abdicate that to AI. Right. This is just a data source that you have to evaluate whether it's accurate or whether it's not.
Right.
And so if you put it in someplace else and then read the real source, then you're going to be accurate and maintain your reputation.
Yeah.
If instead you cite cases that don't exist, your reputation has just taken a big nosedive.
Well, and you mentioned this in the book that, if you just solely rely on AI without checking the results of AI, it actually could be a career ender.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can do stuff that is just, well, I keep coming back to the same thing, but imagine if you're a judge and they cite a case in the brief, and you go to look up the case and it doesn't exist. Do you have any credibility left?
Yeah.
And, in real estate, credibility is a critical ingredient. Same thing in law.
Right.
If your word is your bond and you suddenly find out that your word is useless, your reputation and your value just plummeted.
Well, we actually saw something like this in a court not too recently, where somebody presented cases that didn't exist. And I don't know if they were disbarred or not, but the point is that I think they probably used AI.
Correct.
The other attorney said, these cases don't exist. And then the judge said, what do you mean they don't exist? And of course, the person was sure that they did. And then the judge went back and these cases don't exist. So, I mean, and by the way, we see this in sales too, by the way, where, because it can hallucinate or it can make assumptions, right? I mean, let's keep in mind, this is correlation coefficients that are working together to come up with an answer.
And on the assumptions, what it likes to do is to assume in the favor of pleasing you.
Right.
And this is one thing that is really bizarre about AI is it wants to make you happy. It wants to give you the answer that you're looking for.
Right. Yeah.
Which is not what you're looking for.
Right.
What you're looking for is the honest answer as opposed to something that's going to make you happy.
Right.
So I have a few prompts where I instruct it to say, no.
Right.
If you have to tell me that I'm completely off and all sorts of other insults about my character and myself, go ahead. I need to hear it. Give me the unvarnished truth.
Right.
But that's the other thing that you have to be careful of, is that it's going to sit there and try to make you happy. The other thing that it does that is another thing to worry about is, just like most people, it wants to take the quickest, easiest route.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes it will miss some really good stuff by taking the easiest route. That's one of the things in prompting, talking to AI.
Right.
In the book, I have 7 steps of how to do a complete prompt. You don't need to do all 7 normally, but the very last one is to have feedback loop.
Right.
And so when it gives you an answer, press back, ask more, ask for more detail, go into, and have it do different research. Or, Frankie, on occasion, it'll tell you, oh, no, I can't tell you that because it's super secret. Well, no, it's not.
Right. Which is the closest we ever get to AI to saying, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Because it will never tell you it doesn't know. It'll make up something because
or some excuse.
Because it will always have something to tell you, right?
Yep.
It doesn't ever go, well, you've asked the question I can't answer. That's it. We're done here. Session over.
Yep.
It never does that.
Yeah, I have to admit frequently that I don't know things, but it won't. Yeah.
It always knows something.
Yeah.
Although I did ask it once a question. One of them, I asked a question, and it completely stopped the session. And this was the question. I said, make me a picture of yourself.
That would be fun.
And it said, I can't do that. The session is over. That was the only time I've ever got it to respond that the session was over.
That's an interesting
question. I asked it to create a graphic.
So what do you look like? Yeah.
What do you look like? Yeah. And it said, I can't do that. So this is the devious psychologist in me, right? That's
all those years in school. Look what it's done to your mind.
Right.
Oh my.
Yeah. One of the things you do talk about here in this first chapter is you say, well, we may not be able to trust all the answers. Often they're very good. I would say more times than not, they're actually quite good.
Yeah.
You're still the closer. And here's what you say. You say, here's the truth. The more technology you use, the more human you have to be. Talk about that a little bit.
Basically, all of sales is a relationship process, and having trust and a feeling of empathy and a connection. I love the phrase that says rapport is the tube through which the truth passes. So if you have that connection, what the AI does is to take a lot of the drudgery off of your plate. And so if you can spend more time interacting with people, talking with them, looking them straight in the eye, really seeing what it is that they're all about, then you're going to be a lot more human. And this is what it frees you up to do, is to the human parts of the business, because it does a lot of the dull background research.
Right.
And it's that humanity that, this is why I think the AI is going to make realtors and other salespeople better, in that you will be able to focus on what it is your special talent, your superpower, your ability to interact, your ability to understand, your ability to satisfy other people's problems. And AI is not going to figure that out. You need to get the data, and then you need to have that rapport and relationship and ability to figure it out.
Well, I think, I will just say from my perspective as a show host, podcaster, whatever you want to call me, I utilize AI a lot to do promos and posts and things like that. And I read through them and I make adjustments where I feel like it's a little off here and there. It saves me so much time, and I'm really able to focus on my craft.
Correct. That's exactly it.
I have time to watch more Larry King, right? And study what he does as an interviewer.
Yeah.
And I find that it just improves what I do, because I'm taking things off my plate that I would normally probably pay a virtual assistant to do.
And that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
You get all this stuff off there and you focus on what it is that you do well, and then you do more of it.
Yeah. His name's Tim Burrell. The book is entitled, we're just getting started, by the way, The AI Negotiator, Dominate Real Estate Deals, Dominate Sales with the Power of Artificial Intelligence. You're listening to him right here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, you tune into A New Direction to grow your business and your mindset, but you can't move forward if you're worried about what's lurking in your inbox. And that's where Data 443's Siren, CYREN, comes in. It's the industry standard for real-time email security and URL filtering. They stop phishing and malware before they even strike. So you can focus on your success, not your safety. Don't let a cyber attack derail your journey. Go to data443.com today and secure your future. And Linda Craft Team Realtors. We all know that buying and selling a home isn't just a transaction, it's a major life transition. Whether you're buying your first place, making room for your new baby, or downsizing for retirement, it can all be incredibly stressful. That is why you need Linda Craft Team Realtors. For over 40 years, Linda has been helping people in our community and all over the world really navigate these big life changes. Her team doesn't just sell houses, they take the stress out of the process so you can focus on the future. Don't go it alone. Don't be stressed out. Let 40 years of experience work for you. Visit lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with Tim Burrell and his book, The AI Negotiator, which I've read a couple times. Dominate real estate deals, dominate sales, the power of artificial intelligence. We're just getting started. We're heading into chapter 2, which is entitled Understanding the Other Side, Using AI to Read People and Build Rapport. I loved all the chapters. I really specifically, this is one of the top, I would say one of the top 3 that I really liked, because I thought that you introduced something that most people don't think about, and that is how we use AI to actually get tells, right? For those of you who love watching the World Series of Poker, or maybe play a little bit of Texas Hold'em, which I do, one thing I learned from our friend Jim Allen, who likes to play poker every now and then, he said, I never pick up my cards first. I watch how everybody else picks up their cards. And he's very skilled at this game, by the way, which is why I don't play with him. Okay, there's an obvious reason why I don't play.
Well, maybe we can get you to play with Judy. She does okay on Texas Hold'em herself.
Yeah, I won't play with him. You say something here. You say the biggest mistake most negotiators make is thinking the negotiation is about what you want. Excellent negotiation is about understanding the person across from you, what they need, what worries them, how they communicate, and what drives their decisions. So if that's the case, how are we going to start using AI to get at those things?
And excellent question. Collaborative negotiation is the kind of negotiation that I teach, where what you would do is figure out what the other person really values, and you find out what they value the most. What you're looking for is what I call asymmetry. So, they value it more than I do. Mm-hmm. So if I give it to them, there's more value in the deal. That means I get to get equivalent value back on my side, so we both come out better. And so this is what you're looking for in a negotiation. Now, what you want to do is, when you're negotiating with somebody, you really need to know who they are. And, the tells, you're not going to be able to pick them up unless you know how to read them. Well, before you start negotiating, what I do is I have a super prompt that I've developed that tells me what I have in common with the other person. Mm-hmm. And blanking on the gentleman's name. He's at any rate, they has several good points in terms of we want to work with people that we like. We like people that are somewhat like us. We have something in common, and we also like people that pay us compliments, that mm-hmm. do things nice to us. Well, what you want to do is to start off with this super prompt, and if you want to get the super prompt for free, just send an email to realestatenegotiating@gmail.com. Real estate negotiating, that's what we do. Gmail, that. Put in the super prompt in the title, and we'll send you a free copy of the super prompt. What you do before, say I'm going to negotiate with Jay. I put in information about the prompt is all there. All I got to do is put Jay's name in 2 different places. It will spit out about 4 to 6 pages of, first of all, what Jay is all about. But secondly, it will find things where Jay and I have something in common. Mm-hmm. So before we start the negotiation, we start talking about, you have the background in psychology with the right. education of my undergraduate degrees in psychology. Yeah. I had one that worked the other day where selling a property over in a condominium complex. I sell a lot of properties. I looked the person up, and he had been an early member of the Triangle Real Estate Investors Association. Mm. I've been involved with the association a long time. Before we start anything, we find something in common. We then establish some rapport where we trust each other. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to trade information fairly and honestly. And you're going to find out what's really critical. I found out that there were certain factors that are extremely critical to his client. We made sure he got those in the deal, but my client did exceedingly well. As a matter of fact, the previous sale in that complex for that same unit was $280,000. My sale was for $312,000. Mm-hmm. So we did all right. Now, the other guy felt very good because he got things of equivalent value on his side of it.
Mm.
But this is what we're talking about, is establish that rapport, get the information about the other person. Don't just jump into the numbers and start with some way where we're going to collaborate. We're going to work together. We're going to act as a team because both of us want this transaction to go through.
Mhm.
And that's the one wonderful part about real estate, is that most of the time, both of us want the sale to close. I've had a few situations where it was my client's best interest that the sale didn't close, but
Sure.
that's rare. But so most of the time, starting the collaboration early, find out who they are, find out something you have in common, establish that rapport. And the phrase, Cialdini was the guy I couldn't remember.
Robert Cialdini. Yeah. Great, by the way, great author, great speaker. Influence is the name of the book.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The Power of Influence.
Yeah. At any rate, what he puts in there is, we like people who pay us compliments. Now, he's not talking about just vague, vacuous compliments. I did a different podcast with somebody else, and I researched them, and we're having all kinds of tech problems. And I said, oh, well, your background in IT is going to come in real handy here. How'd you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're important.
Right.
So I wanted to look you up and find out a little bit about you. Oh, well, that's quite a compliment. So if you take the effort to find out who the other person, that you value them, that in and of itself is a compliment. So if you start off on this foot, you're going to start off on the right foot. I have a whole lot of people that want to call me up and start the negotiations by showing me how tough they are. And I don't understand that.
Well, it doesn't get us very far. Cialdini talks about the law of reciprocity.
Correct.
And so the fact is that when I do make a genuine compliment, especially about your personality or your knowledge or your competence or your ability, not that necessarily that you're handsome or good looking, which you are, but that's not gonna get.
And you lie with such a straight face. Good. Well done.
Well, a lot of poker. But the thing is that if it's genuine, and if the law of reciprocity starts working there, and it is, and the reason why it's called a law of reciprocity, because it really does extend back to Aristotle.
Yeah,
is where this comes from, right?
The birth of human beings.
Yeah. So
I do something for you, you feel obligated to do something for me.
Well, I've spoken at a number of real estate conferences where I've talked about this, where I'm sure this has happened to people on watching or listening, right? Christmas time comes, you're going through your Christmas list, and there's just some people you haven't seen in quite a while, and say, yeah, I'm not going to get them anything. Inevitably, they show up at your door and they hand you a gift and say, Merry Christmas to you. And of course, you've crossed them off your list, right? So what's the first thing that you do? The first thing that you do is you wait for them to leave. You open the gift to see how much it costs, right? And then what you do is you calculate what that cost is. Oh, this is about $30. Then you go out and spend $120 on a bottle of Dom Perignon because you start to feel guilty because of the reciprocity issue.
Yes, to alleviate your feelings.
So you got to alleviate your guilt, right? So it becomes a double. It's actually even worse for you if that happens, because there is this uncomfortable, obligation that we feel when we're complimented. And I think this happens so much more frequently than what we're willing to accept if we could get our ego out of the way in negotiations, right?
Yeah.
If I could get my ego out of the way.
Right. Well, and I think what Cialdini is talking about when compliments is something that is more of an action and activity of showing that they honor you, as opposed to, oh, you look so cute today.
Right.
That's not going to get you very far.
Yeah.
But the other full attitude of respect and honoring the other person's, for being something important, I think that works.
How do we use AI you talk about this a little bit. How do we use AI to get past of what maybe the other side is just saying and what they really mean? Mm-hmm. How do we get, because we get a bunch of stuff that's said,
right?
But really the negotiation comes about, what do they really mean? How do we use AI to help make that happen?
And this is one place where I may do something really weird in my book. I provide some information about certain tools that I don't use. And I don't believe in them. Right. But it's not my job to filter what's available. I'm going to put it all out there, and if you want to use it, but there is some emotional things for
Well,
Sybil. Well, Crystal knows, and
Crystal knows,
Sybil, and a couple of the other things.
Receptivity.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I found interesting from a psychologist standpoint, because they actually use the Big Five personality inventory,
Right.
which is the OCEAN. For those of you who don't know what that is, they evaluate on openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Right.
And so,
and a couple of the other ones will actually use the DISC profiles.
right.
And so you can get those sorts of things. Now, from my perspective, I'm a lot better just knowing and feeling
Right.
that they're not telling me what's really going on.
Right.
And so you have to probe a little bit, active listening. Well, what will that do for you? Now, if we do that, what will the outcome be? Follow it up several different layers deep. And when you finally get to what it is they're talking about, then you're going to be able to solve the problem. Because if there is something that, no, the price has got to be this.
Right.
Well, why? And or this other term has to be this. Well, why? And what will that do for you? And so, frankly, from my perspective, I don't use AI to do that. I use me.
Right.
Because I've been doing this way too long.
Although I will say, I have thrown in emails and maybe text messages into Claude or Gemini, and I have thrown them in, gone with the extended versions, right? The very slow thinking or professional versions, right? To give me a psychological analysis, and asked it for a psychological analysis of everything that's in here,
or who am I playing with,
and try to at least get a feel. Now, I'm going to trust years of working as a forensic psych and other things to kind of really rely on.
Much more than the AI.
But I want to see, is there something I may have missed?
And frankly, this is nice to have a second opinion, and it opens up your mind to things you hadn't thought of.
Right.
And so just put it in there and see what it comes back with. But yeah, from that perspective, I use just years and years and years of doing this and that gut feeling and that sense that no, they're not telling me what they really feel. And if we can find out what they really feel, and this is the thing that's such a contradiction in negotiation, because if you truly share information and find out what's valuable on each side, you're going to come up with a better deal.
Right.
Unfortunately, both sides have to play. And if one side is just taking information and not sharing information, you're going to be in trouble.
Right.
So before you get into this is why I start, with finding out about the person, establishing rapport, and then seeing if we're going to collaborate. If we're going to collaborate, then we're both going to do a collaborative negotiation.
Right.
If one of us is not going to collaborate, then we are not doing a collaborative negotiation, and it's going to be back old school hardball.
Well, is it a monologue or a dialogue? Right. I mean, that's the question, right? Because if it's
exactly it.
It's right, because either we're having a dialogue or we're having a monologue.
Yep.
Right.
And this is the thing that, if both sides are going to share, that delightful phrase, everything you say can and will be used against you. And in some situations, if you share too much and they find out something that is, incredibly sensitive to you, then they can use that to your advantage. And if you haven't gotten an equivalent item on their side of it, then you could get yourself into trouble. So and that's why it's an art.
Yeah.
It's not, you can't do a checklist on negotiations. It is an art. And you have to feel it and get yourself trained in it and then practice it and then, work your way through it.
One of the things you talk about here is the power of empathy in negotiations. And while I think we can set up prompts in AI to ask it to be empathetic or to, have an empathetic response, it's still quite a challenge, I think, for them, because empathy is just what we were saying about compliments, right? You can't really fake it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when you're blowing smoke, and when you're not, right? And I think while we can utilize the AI piece, but it is something that we can ask AI generators to come up with a more empathetic response.
Yeah. But you see, this is why I have a whole lot of realtors that are really worried that, oh my God, empathy, AI is going to replace me. That is the reason it's not going to replace you.
Right.
You're the one with empathy. You're the one that can sense who they are, and you can feel who they are and feel whether you can trust them or not. And to show how critical empathy is in negotiation, every year, the Harvard Project on Negotiation, they give an award for the best negotiation in the world. And then they interview the person afterwards and say, what was the most critical factor? The vast majority of the time, it's empathy.
Right.
So if you want to learn negotiating skills, tune yourself up to feel what the other person feels. There's a whole lot of people that think negotiating is take, take, take. In fact, it's give and take. And so if you can find out the feeling of the other person and what's important to them, when somebody on the other side of the transaction gets what's critically important to them, they're going to close the sale. When they don't, it's not as likely that it's going to work out. But if their critically important issues are satisfied, you're going to close gracefully. If not, it's going to be a bumpy road.
Dr. Amy Cuddy wrote a book called Presence. And she was at Harvard University when she was doing her research, and now is at Northeastern. And she was researching what were the most important factors in successful sales. And she asked people their opinion, right? And all the people said competence, 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 competence. But whether it was B2B or B2C, the number one success was compassion.
Yeah.
It didn't matter, B2B or B2C, compassion.
To actually understand.
Right.
Now, you don't have to give in to their feelings,
no,
but you can understand their feelings and deal with that appropriately.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with their feelings, but as long as you understand them, and then you can work with that as, okay, so this is one of the factors we need to solve. In the negotiations, This is what we have to accomplish. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and her research was clear on it. And I think this can often be a problem in negotiating anything, any sale, right? Is when we're so headstrong on getting what we want, right? All of a sudden we shut down our empathy tank, right? And instead of going, what is it that they really want? Do I even understand it? And while I can't understand exactly how you feel, if I work at it, I can at least come pretty close.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Or come close and appreciate it. Right. Yeah. And I think this is a negotiating tactic that is just, again, I think it's an art, but I also think it says something about the person who you're on the other side of the table with.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It says a lot, right? What is their empathy like? I mean, I could tell you in negotiations, how they respond back to me, I can tell if that's an empathetic response or not.
Yeah. And there's the key ingredient is so many people think, oh, no, I've got to go into this and I got to take.
Right.
Well, you have a distributive negotiation where it's basically a fixed size of the pie. My gain is your pain. The more I take, the more you lose.
Right.
If instead you do a collaborative negotiation, now, Harvard has a different word for it. I like my word better. But if you do a collaborative one, you find out what's important to each side.
Right.
And then you take the important factors, the people that value it more, they get that one. But I want to have something equivalent. And what you're saying is, okay, I have to have these certain things. One of the best ways to get those certain things is start off by giving them something that's important to them. And then in the same breath saying, oh, and now I need this. So your reciprocity kicks in.
Right.
You start out with them feeling like, oh, we're doing well. Yeah, but in return for that, I need this. Okay. And so the thing is contingent on the two of them coming together.
Well, and I think this is the thing about great negotiations as we're about to move into chapter 3, is that it's not just one tool. It's actually a combination of these tools, right? So it's because or art, or if it's empathy, you can't just have empathy. You also have to have reciprocity.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can't just have one and go, I'm going to use that one, and that's the only one I'm going to use today.
Yeah. But once you have the empathy, then you need to know what to do with that. You need to know what to do with that information.
Right.
And then, so now I've got their feeling. Okay, if we need to satisfy that particular item, we're going to satisfy that, but use this asymmetry, saying, okay, you got something, now I want something similar. You value it really highly. Oh, good. I need something of that same value.
Right. Yeah. And it's so good, right? Because I just love how it's like a puzzle to me in my brain, right? I'm seeing a puzzle.
And this is the way I try to explain negotiations. A proper negotiation is a collaborative effort to solve a puzzle. And if you can all work together and all put the pieces together, you're all going to be happier. And, you're going to go away thinking this was a great transaction. It was wonderful. Right. I had in my first book, The Create a Great Deal, I tell a story about this rather young agent standing there bragging to her clients that, oh, we won this dogfight. And then she drives off, and I hear the wife turn to the husband saying, I didn't want a dogfight.
Right.
I didn't want to go through this. And, I'm sitting here on the other side saying, yeah, it was not a wonderful experience. And that's not what the people wanted.
No.
And so, yeah, if you can collaborate, from a realtor standpoint, your clients are going to be happier. They're going to have a better experience. Better experiences means they send you more referrals. More referrals means you do a whole lot better. So,
well, and I think this is the other part of the AI negotiator is the AI is a collaborator with you.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And this is the thing and what you're suggesting in the book and what you're doing with the book is you're saying, okay, I'm giving you some things. So some of these I don't use, but I'm going to give you some things out there. But here's what I want you to do. At least this is how I read it. Go out and experiment with it. Try it. Now, I'm not saying rely on it, but try on a few things.
Yep.
See how it fits. Mess with your prompts. Ask it to do things that you're not even thinking about to ask. Make it part of your team, right? As your I don't want to say conspirator on your team, but make it your co-negotiator, right?
Yeah, partner. Yeah.
Partner, right? And see what it can maybe help you think of that you're not thinking. Which is what I really pulled from the book.
And you're exactly right, because it'll open up things. Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Right.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it does. And, if you give it a little playroom, right? Because sometimes I just want to give AI some playroom, right? To be as imaginative and creative as it possibly can be. And I will even tell it things like, don't give me a standard answer. Sometimes what it will pull back, right? That's very creative that I wouldn't have thought of it. While it may be completely outlandish and wrong, makes me really think through the answer.
Yeah, and you have more fun anyway.
Yeah, and I'm having more fun, but it's also making me go, how close are we to that answer? I get we're not there today, but is that a reality later on down the road? So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. You've already talked about this. Chapter 3 is preparing to negotiate using AI for negotiating power. And you said it earlier in the show. You cannot win the negotiations if you do not first win the preparation.
Correct.
Right. And I know that, you being an attorney, preparation is everything. Like if you're presenting a case, preparation, a bunch of preparation. We don't think about that in terms of sales, right? Of preparing.
For example, as an attorney, you never ask a question unless you already know what the answer is going to be. In sales, you go ahead and ask that question. You might find out something.
So you have a subheading here called the new rules of preparation, and in terms of AI. So you talk about, like, especially specifically in real estate, right? Being able to compare not just sales prices, but you could compare renovation quality, finishes, factor in school rankings, crime statistics, estimate not just what the home's worth today, but what it might likely be worth in 6 months, even though we know it's like the stock market, we can't guarantee any of that. But what you're saying is that we can utilize AI to really prep ourselves. Give us an example of something that you may do with AI to really prep for the negotiation.
This particularly, you negotiate with people who are going to sell their house, over the listing. And one of the things that they're really big on is, oh, no, I have these special features. And that's why my house is more valuable. Mike Ferry tells the old joke of, I've got shelves in my garage. That makes my house worth $10,000 more. But what you can do using some of these things like House Canary and some of the other ones, it will actually look at the pictures and it will tell you which features they have. So if you do your preparation and you know that the people are going to be very proud of their kitchen with the granite and the fancy faucets and the pendant lights and all this sort of stuff, find a couple of properties with the granite, et cetera, the pendant lights, to show them that, no, we don't want you to be the highest bidder for your house. We know you love your house, but we need to have the market be able to outbid you so they'll actually buy it. So if you do your preparation and you come in with that, when they come up with those things, saying, you're exactly right. And I certainly appreciate that. And I appreciate that so much that I've done the research on it to show that, here's other houses with those same features, and this is what they sold for. So, this is very valuable information, because if we overprice you and you sit out there for too long, and then tells, one of the biggest tells you don't want to have in negotiation is huge days on the market.
Right.
It's a giant sign of weakness.
Yeah.
And so, that's a part of our job, is to get the preparation done well so that we can show to the clients that we have good data. We can compare their property apples to other properties and price it appropriately.
Or bid on appropriately, depending on if you're the buyer side, right?
Yeah.
His name's Tim Burrell. Tim Burrell. The book is entitled The AI Negotiator. I don't know why I'm tongue-tied. I guess it's because it's him. Dominate Real Estate Deals with the Power of Artificial Intelligence is the book. Available bookstores everywhere. If they don't have it, ask them for it. And of course, it's always on Amazon. You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, one click. That's all it takes for ransomware and phishing to shut your business down. Stop the threat at the source with Data 443 Siren, CYREN. Powered by the world's most robust threat intelligence network, Siren detects and blocks attacks in real time, protecting your data, your employees, and most of all, your reputation. Stop hoping you're safe. Start knowing you're safe. Visit data443.com. Check out Siren right now to see the solution in action. It actually does. And Linda Craft Team Realtors. Let me just say something about Linda Craft Team Realtors. I'm a little biased. I completely admit it. I think they have the best website on the planet when it comes to real estate. Okay, so if you're planning a move, you got to check it out, lindacraft.com. Honestly, so much more than just home listings, which they should have. But Linda understands moving impacts the whole family. For instance, her website includes a feature where a child psychologist gave advice on how to help kids move. She got a hold of some veterinarians on how to move with pets. I think it's a complete emotional resource center for your family. Check them out. See the difference for yourself. Log on today, lindacraft.com, lindacraft.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend Tim Burrell. Here, the book is entitled The AI Negotiator, is what it is. Thanks, everybody, for chiming in and looking in at us. Appreciate you doing that. Dominate real estate. I'm going to say dominate sales with the power of artificial intelligence. Tim, I'm going to jump way, way, way ahead here towards the end of the book, because I had, first of all, this has been fun. I don't know if you're having fun, but I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
But I want to jump to the end of the book, because one of the things that you do at the end of the book, you start talking about the future and what that may look like. And I want to spend a little bit of time there talking about what the future of AI and negotiation might look like. Because I think that, first of all, there's a couple things. One, you have a chapter before that talks about risks, ethics, and the human element. And AI does have its limits. So maybe before we talk about the future, maybe we should talk a little bit about some of the limits. We've already talked about the empathy gap. But what are some of the other limits, like legal risks or anything that might be something we want to consider as we're using AI?
And your biggest issue there is to realize it's your reputation that's on the line.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just sit there and abdicate all of your power to the AI tool and just immediately believe it. You have to double check it, analyze it, and make sure that it's that's there. The other trick is it doesn't know. Well, I guess we can teach it the rules of real estate and the rules of real estate ethics and things of that nature, but it can easily tell you to do certain things. As an example, it'll talk with you about in multiple offer negotiations. Well, one of the easiest way to get the other people to come up on that is to tell them what some of the other offers are. You can't do that. In North Carolina,
you can't do that. No,
well, you have to have written permission from the person who wrote the offer to
disclose that offer. Yes, right.
So all of those sorts of things, the AI doesn't know. So it'll tell you to do stuff that you shouldn't do. And so you need to be well enough versed in ethics, morality, the proper trade of buying and selling real estate to know when to override that. What it says. Go ahead and smile, and just laugh and say, "This is crazy." But you are the one responsible for the ethical implementation. It's going to give you information. You have to ethically implement that information and use it properly.
Well, and regardless of the sales that you're in, there's probably some sort of regulation of what you can and can't do.
Correct.
Right. I mean, if you're in the mortgage or financial industry, FINRA, right? There's FINRA rules, right? Mm-hmm. That you have to be aware of. Which, by the way, you can ask it to do. I want to improve. I want to improve how many, my sales this year, and you go to it and you put it in and it gives you all this stuff. Well, they may not be FINRA compliant,
Mhm.
right? That same way as they may not be North Carolina Real Estate Commission compliant,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
There is this issue of be careful, because it's not necessarily compliant.
Right.
So you have to be careful there. You talk about something else in this chapter at the end. You said that AI is a force multiplier, but you're still the force.
Correct.
Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, it's your business, it's your personality, and it's your ability to work with people and to get them the results that is going to grow your business. AI is just going to give you data. It's just an information machine. It's not going to grow your business. Now, frankly, one of the more delightful things that I've done is to put in a bunch of information about my business and to ask it to criticize it.
Right.
And to come up with things that I'm doing wrong and to give me suggestions on doing better. And so that is a really good tool.
Right.
And that's when you have to give it the prompt to say, don't blow smoke. I need to have accurate information. But that is the fact that, it's the realtor and the real estate company, and they are the ones that are actually putting the sales together, having the diligence to follow it up,
Right.
making all the details work, and delivering the papers, the materials, the keys, all those gazillion things on your checklist. You are the force in doing that. AI is going to give you some information. It might give you some suggestions on how to do these things more easily. It will also give you some things. For example, on a website, you can put, instead of having the people have to call you and ask questions about that property, you can put a chat bot on your website, have the people ask questions about it. The chat bot 24 hours a day will give them the information they need about, whatever it is that's important to them about that property. So all those different tools can free you up to do more business, to find more people that need your assistance, and to give so much better assistance that they can't resist sending all their friends.
You talk about here preparing for the future, and you give us 5 things, and I would love to hear your comment on it. You said the key to thriving in this rapidly evolving AI negotiating environment is A, maintaining a learning mindset, and then invest in your emotional intelligence, develop your strategic thinking, continue to build your network face to face, and stay curious about new tools and approaches. Putting that all together, those things, as you look at the future of AI in negotiations, whether it be real estate or somewhere else, put all that together for us in a nice little bow of looking at all that.
The open mindset and the curiosity about things. I study this. Musicians practice every day. I study a little bit of AI every day. It changes all the time. If you want to use it, you're going to have to keep up with it. And you're going to have to maintain that curious approach and that way of doing things. In the future, there is a company that I just spent 3 days down in Florida doing another AI training. And one of the things that these folks are coming up with is an AI chatbot that will actually do the negotiations for them. So it will send an email to the people representing and make an offer. The chatbot knows what the limits of the offer they will make and knows what the terms are. It'll go back and forth and virtually negotiate the thing. Once it gets to something that's within the parameters that it thinks it's right, then it brings in the human, and the human says, yeah, we'll finish that deal. We'll go ahead and sign it. Now, it's also smart enough that you and I were talking about Claude with CoWork. It's also smart enough to where it will go in there and go into DocuSign, have the documents, send them out for signature and send them back. So a whole lot of this stuff that we currently hire virtual assistants for or do a lot of the drudgery ourselves, a whole lot of that can be gone. Now, one of the more bizarre things that I was listening to this guy talk about, you let that chatbot negotiate for you? Well, they do this on such a high volume that now they're able to increase their volumes. And as long as the deal comes in within the parameters of what they're willing to do, they're happy. And so, from an industrial, they flip. And from an industrial standpoint, you're not going to buy your own house that way.
Right.
Your
personal home is not going to happen that way.
But in a more volume oriented, this gives them what they need and gives them the volume they need without taking the time. They'd have to hire 5 or 6 more people to do all this, and the chatbot just chugs right along. So your biggest thing on this is going to be to keep up with it.
Yeah.
Because it keeps changing all of the time, and it keeps coming up with all these new and wonderful. After that 3-day conference, I'm going, okay, I got a lot more to go home and play with.
Yeah. This has been fun. We've done an hour. It's gone fast.
Yeah, it has.
But I've really enjoyed it.
I could do this for days.
I know. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. Tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want to get more information. Send them to a website. I don't care. Give me your phone number if you want to. I don't care what you want to do.
The simplest way to find me is by my email. And it's tim@timburrell.com, which has got 2 R's and 2 L's. And that's probably one of the best ways to find me. Your biggest thing that might be helpful for is for those of you that need some assistance on negotiating. I have a website called negotiatingconsultant.com, and people from all over the United States get stuck in a negotiation. They call me. I'm kind of like the emergency room doctor when your deal is on life support. Occasionally I can breathe life back into it. Occasionally I have to give it the last rites and just say it's over. But that's one thing that is particularly good. And one of the things I've been really enjoying is I have been going to real estate firms and teaching not just AI negotiating, but how to use AI in a real estate business. How to do virtual staging very easily. You don't have to hire somebody else to stage it. Just do it yourself. How to prompt, how to do negotiations, of course, and how to work better with your clients so you can come out of that commission negotiation with a much better item. So if you are either a large team or if you're a real estate office, I'd be happy to give you a couple-hour presentation that will really bring you up to speed. There's a whole lot of people that go, oh my God, there's so much here. Where do I start? I will get you started. I'll get you far enough into it to where it won't be scary anymore. And then you'll find the fun of it. And then you'll just enjoy, having all of the fun that you can do to play around with AI and to poke it now and then.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Stay with me. Folks, it's the show. You know what I say to you. You're in control of 3 things: your attitude, your effort, and your resiliency. Life doesn't always give us what we want. We certainly can be in circumstances we didn't choose, but you're still in control of your attitude. It's up to you. Change it. You can do it. It's not easy, but you can. Your effort's tied to your excellence, right? You may not have the same amount of energy yesterday as you did today or the day before, but you know what? You can be excellent with what you do have. Again, that's your choice. And you know what? We all get punched in the mouth or punched in the eye and get knocked down, but it's up to us to get back up again. And we need you to get back up. Why? Because you're worth it, and we want you on the team. I'll be back next week with another great guest. It's going to be another great show. You have a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you for doing that. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube, wherever you're listening to the show via podcast. Give us a 5-star review. Tell your friends to tune in and listen to the show. As I say to you all over the world, you know what that is. Ciao, everybody.